Your ability will be truly expressed to the degree of your mentality. Yes, your ability will be truly expressed to the degree of your mentality. Yes. Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for joining us again on another exciting upgrade live with Mr. Upgrade. I'm super excited to have you here today. This is the Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade, and you know we do this every Sundays from 7 p.m. through to 8 p.m. and we basically get to do four things. Yes, number one, we get to take your questions. So if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to send in your questions and we will gladly take them. Number two, we get to share with you the upgrade mastery tip for the week. And for this week, the upgrade mastery tip for this week is mentality. Yes, mentality. If you're a Manchester United fan and you get to watch Marcus Rashford last season, he always does something like this when he scores, right? Mentality. So our upgrade mastery tip for this week is mentality. And then the third thing we get to do on this conversation is that we get to connect, network, and bond because we realize that connecting, networking, and bonding is very critical for our world today. So we get to connect, network, and bond. And finally, the fourth thing we get to do is that we get to have fun. Yes, we got to have fun because we strongly believe that if learning is not fun, then there is no learning at all, right? If learning is not fun, there is no learning at all. So we get to have fun while we do what we do on the Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade. So, guys, are you ready? Are you excited? Then let's get into this conversation. You know, on the Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade, we get to start off with basic five questions. Yes, we got to start off with basic five questions. And the basic five questions are the questions that help us to lay the foundation to help you to understand what it is that we are talking about, right? So it sets the tone, it lays the foundation so that you can have a better understanding of what it is that we're talking about on the conversation today. Now, our basic five questions. Question number one is simple. What is mentality? Yes. What is mentality? So when you hear the word mentality, what comes to mind? What is mentality? What is the thing that comes to mind when you hear mentality? And I'll tell you what mentality is, right? Now, one of the things we tell people when they come to watch our conversation is to always know that whatever we share here can only be found here. I'll say that again. Whatever we share here can only be found here. You won't find what we share here anywhere else. You can't even find it on Google, right? So pay attention to what it is that we share with you here because you can't find it anywhere else. Now, what is mentality? And this is what mentality is. Mentality, it is a way of thinking, a way of speaking and acting that affects your living. I'll say that again. Mentality is a way of thinking, it is a way you can tell that is the mentality that you have. So that is the definition of mentality. It is a way of thinking, speaking, and acting that affects your living. Now, question number two is interesting. Question number two is who's responsible for mentality? Now, we know what mentality is. Who then is responsible for mentality? Now, we understand already that mentality is a way of thinking, speaking, and acting that affects your living. Who then is now responsible for mentality? The answer is simple. You are. The mentality you have, you are responsible for it. Nobody is responsible for your mentality. You are absolutely, yes, absolutely responsible for your mentality. That's question two. Who's responsible for mentality? You are. Now, question number three, why mentality? Now, we know what mentality is. We know who's responsible for mentality. Now, the question is, why mentality? Why do we have to talk about mentality? Now, there are three reasons why mentality, and I want to share that with you. One, discipline. Number one reason why mentality is discipline, right? Number two reason why mentality is determination. Mentality gives you a certain determination. Yes, it gives you a certain determination that you have about yourself, about the people around you, about your life, about situations. Mentality gives you a determination. And then the third reason why mentality is diligence. Now, mentality helps you to be diligent in whatever it is you do because you have a winning mindset. So you're diligent in what you do, knowing that you can just not fail. Right? So these are the three reasons why mentality. Number one, discipline. Number two, determination. And number three, diligence. Now, question number four is, what are the benefits of mentality? Now, I know what mentality is. I know who's responsible for mentality. I know why mentality. Now, the question now is, what are the benefits? What are the benefits of mentality? Now, I'm going to tell you three benefits of mentality, right? Number one, swift decision making. Now, one of the benefits of mentality is that you make swift decision. You don't procrastinate, you don't hesitate, you don't overanalyze and then suffer from analysis paralysis. No, you make swift decision when you have mentality. So one of the benefits of mentality is swift decision making. You are not dilly-dallying. You are making the decision swiftly. That's one of the benefits of mentality, right? The second benefit of mentality is resoluteness. You become so resolute, right? You become so resolute that you're not beating around the bush, you're not going here and there. You become so resolute. You know what you're doing, you go for it. That's how resolute you become with mentality. And that's a benefit of mentality, resoluteness. And then the third benefit of mentality is a winning mindset. Yes, a mindset that wins. The one who has mentality has this mindset of winning. You know, winning is not only about just winning per se, because sometimes you learn and that's also a win, right? But the one with mentality has this winning mindset. And everything for me is either I win or I learn. There is no loss. That is the winning mindset. I win or I learn. No loss. That is the winning mindset. Right? So these are the three benefits of mentality. Number one, swift decision making. Number two, resoluteness. And number three, the winning mindset. Now, question number five. Right? Question number five is simple. It is, when is the best time for mentality? When is the best time for mentality? And I always tell people the last best time for mentality was yesterday. The next best time for mentality is now. Now is the next best time for mentality. Now, listen to this, guys. We've talked about mentality, what it is, who's responsible for it, why mentality, the benefits of mentality, and we've also talked about when is the best time for mentality, right? Now, let's get into an interesting part of this conversation, which is let's break down mentality, right? Are you excited about this? If you're excited about this, let me see in the comment section, right? Put mentality in the comment section so I know you're excited about this and you are ready for this. Put mentality in the comment section so I know that you're ready for this. Now, the word mentality, 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 right? Mentality, mentality, mentality. Now let's talk about mentality, right? Are you excited? Yeah, I know you are because I am. I am super. I am super excited, right? So let's get into mentality now. The M in mentality, right? Because that's where it started off from. The M in mentality is mindset. We talked earlier that one of the benefits of mentality is that you have a winning mindset. Now, the M in mentality is mindset. Now, this is what mindset is. Now, your mindset is how you have set your mind. Now, this is very critical because a lot of people don't have the mindset for what is possible for them, right? A lot of people don't have the mindset for what is possible for them because they've set their mind in a way that negativity will thrive. It's their mindset. A lot of people believe that things will go wrong, and then things actually do go wrong because it's their mindset. Now, a mentality begins with your mindset. What are the things that your mind is set on? That regardless of what happens, you cannot be disadvantaged. What are the things that your mind is set on? So you see, your mentality begins with the mindset. It begins with the mindset, right? So the M in mentality is mindset. Mindset. What is that thing that you have set in your mind? When it's set in your mind, it's hard for you not to achieve it. It's hard for you to go against it because it's set already in your mind. I had a mindset way, way long ago that I am the shortest distance between who you are now and who you can become. It's a mindset. I know that for everyone I meet, I can literally upgrade their lives. It's a mindset for me. And that's the mentality with which I work and approach people, knowing that there's something I can help them improve in their lives. It's a mindset. So mentality begins with a mindset. And I love what scripture says in Philippians 2:5. It says, let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus. Mindset. Who thought it not robbery to be equal with God? Mindset. Right? We're going to get into some other interesting areas of mentality today, and I hope that this will really help you to become all that you can be. Right? So the M in mentality is mindset. Now, the E in mentality is excellence. You see, there are a lot of people who are okay being okay. A lot of people are okay being okay because they are comfortable with average. And I always say this: average don't win awards. Average don't win awards. Excuses don't pay bills, right? So you need to develop the culture of excellence because that becomes a mentality for you. One of the ways in which I do things, I do it with excellence. Excellence. No matter how little it is, what I'm going to do, I do it with excellence. Why? Because that is a mentality for me. I believe that if things must be done, they should be done in excellence and with excellence, right? So that's the mentality that I work with. If I can't do it with excellence, I will not do it at all because I cannot be a mediocre. I cannot do average. And besides, excellence is learned. There's no one on the face of the earth that was born with excellence. We learned our excellence. But that comes from the mentality of excellence. You know, a lot of people are comfortable with average. A lot of people are comfortable with average. But that must not be you, because you must have the mentality of excellence, because the E in mentality is excellence. Knowing that you can do things and do it well. Knowing that you can do things and do it with so much finesse. Excellence, guys. The E mentality is excellence. You cannot afford not to be excellent. Put in the work, put in the hours. Excellence is key. Excellence is key. So if you're watching this, please drop a comment of what you're learning. Put your fire emoji. You know I love the fire emojis, right? Put the fire emoji so I know that you're here with me at this time, because that really shows that you're following the conversation, right? Because this is a conversation, right? So the E in mentality is excellence. And you must do all that you do with excellence, because you can learn excellence. You can learn excellence, right? Excellence simply is you paying attention to details. Paying attention to details. You cannot be a mediocre. Pay attention to details. Excellence. Right? Anybody can do mediocrity, but that should not be you, because that's not your mentality. Your mentality is built on excellence. So when you get into a place, you look at what's happening, like, this can be improved. This can be improved. This can be improved. Why? Because you have a mentality of excellence. Right? And then the N in mentality is no. You know, I often tell people this, that many of the challenges that people get into in life is because they say yes too quickly and no not soon enough. I'll say that again. Many of the challenges that people get into in life is because they said yes too quickly and no not soon enough. So one of the things you must have as your mentality is to be able to say no. Just imagine if Eve in the garden had said no. When the serpent came to deceive her, Eve had just said no. You know, we live in a world where it's easier to say yes. It's much harder to say no. So because of that, a lot of people have the mentality of easily saying yes where they should say no. You know, remember that old nursery rhyme? Wherever you go, wherever you be, do not say yes where you need to say no. Did you get that? The N mentality is no. You must know the things that you need to say no to. That must be your mentality. Not everything you should say yes to. Not everything you should accept. You must know the things to say no to. It must be in your mentality, the things that you have to say no to. Right? And then the T, your mentality, is to trust. You know, people grow up in places and in environments where their trust may have been taken abused, their trust may have been hit really hard, and now they no longer trust, they suspect everybody. I always tell people this is always best to have discernment than to live with suspicion. I'll say that again. It's always best to have discernment than to live with suspicion. So there are a lot of people who are living with suspicion because they lack discernment. So they suspect any and everything. That should not be your mentality. Your mentality should be the one that trusts. I often tell people that you should trust people until they give you a reason not to trust them anymore. And even at that, still trust them, because trust doesn't have an expiry date. Trust doesn't expire. So your mentality should be the one that trusts, even when you have no reason to. Your mentality should be the one that trusts people even when you have no reason to. Because what is life if you can't trust? Because you see, every day we live our life is lived in trust. In one of the chapters of the book, Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren, he said life is a test, life is a trust, and life is a temporary assignment. What is life without trust? So you must have the mentality to trust, even when you have no reason to. It must be in your mentality that you can trust people, you can believe in people, you can see the good in people. Even when they are outrightly wicked to you, you can still trust that there is good in them. That's the mentality you should have. Not the one that suspects, but the one that discerns, the one that trusts. Mentality, guys. This is deep. We're going deeper in this conversation, right? If you're still here, please write what you're learning in the comments so that you can be part of the conversation, and other people who get to watch the replay can always learn from your comment. So your comment is also part of the conversation. So feel free to share your comment, and also feel free to ask questions in the comment section. If you have any question you may want to ask, feel free to ask your questions and we'll gladly take them on the conversation also. Now, the A mentality is ability. Now, one of the things we said in our opening quote for this conversation is the fact that your ability will truly be expressed to the degree of your mentality. The A in mentality is ability. See, guys, I know you have ability. In fact, we had a conversation on ability recently, right? A full session on ability. So you can go watch that conversation on ability, right? But you see, it takes your mentality to be able to express your ability. I'll say that again. It takes your mentality to be able to express your ability. So if you have the mentality of a success, it's easier to express that ability of success through you. Right? So the A in mentality is your ability. What can you do? Right? So you now need your mentality to put to work what you can do. But you say, how is this even possible? Don't worry. Stick with me on this conversation. I'm going to explain this better for you on this journey. How it is important that your mentality drives your ability. Because some people have ability, but they lack the mentality. And because of that, they hide the ability because they lack the mentality to express the ability. Don't worry. I'll explain more about that. Don't worry. Right? Don't worry. I will explain more about that because that is very critical. So the A in mentality is your ability, what you can do. What you can do. Now, the L in mentality is learning. There are things you learn because you have a mentality, right? Remember, I told you earlier that one of the benefits of your mentality is a winning mindset where you don't lose, you only learn, right? So you don't lose. It's either you win or you learn. You never lose. Why? Because learning is part of your mentality. Learning is part of your mentality, and we'll go there in more details in this conversation, right? The L in mentality is learning. Learning. Because as you improve your mentality, as you upgrade your mentality, you are learning. You're seeing what works. You're seeing what doesn't work. You're seeing what needs rework. Why? Because you are learning. And that is improving your mentality. And then the I in mentality, guys. The I mentality is intentional. Now, with your mentality, you become very intentional. You become very laser focused, right? You're not distracted here and there. You're not tossed to and fro. You are intentional. You know what you are going for. You aim the bullseye. You go for the jugular, right? You are intentional. The I mentality is intentional. So you become intentional. When you have mentality, you focus on your focus. You become intentional because that's your mentality. You know your goal, you know the target, and you hit the bull's eye because of how intentional you are, right? And then, follow me closely. And then the T in mentality is traits. Now, we all have certain traits, right? There are some certain traits that your mentality brings to the fore. Certain traits like thinking and your acting, right? Because of your mentality, there's a certain way you think, there's a certain way you act. There are certain traits that you exhibit because of your mentality. You don't behave like everybody else. And you see this as we explain further on this conversation, right? So don't go anywhere, stick to the end because the juice is still coming. It's not there yet, right? You know, like we always say, the juice of any learning is practice, right? Now, the why mentality is you. You are the one that has the mentality. The why in mentality is you. You. So this is what mentality is. mentality. mentality. Mentality, right? Mindset, excellence, know, trust, ability, learning, intentional, traits, and you. That is mentality. Now let's get into more explanation of mentality so you can get a better understanding of this conversation. Right? Now see this. Everyone has a mentality. Everyone has a mentality. There is no one that doesn't have a mentality. Everyone has a mentality. The question is your mentality empowering or limiting? Everyone has a mentality. The question now is your mentality empowering or is your mentality limiting? That's the question now. Is your mentality empowering or is it limiting? That's the question you have to answer. Is your mentality, is it empowering or is it limiting? Because everyone has a mentality. There is no one who doesn't have a mentality. No one. Everyone has a mentality. But now the question is your mentality empowering or is it limiting? Now you see, how people get limiting mentality. I'll tell you how they get limiting mentality. So you say you're wondering, how do people get limiting mentality? I'll tell you. Number one, their home experiences. The experiences that people have at home has a way it now limits their mentality. What are those experiences? Abuse, trauma, hurts. All of these experiences at home has a way it limits your mentality. With the words spoken over you, the things said about you, the things said to you, it limits your ability and it shrinks your mentality. So even if you are amazing, but if they've always told you at home you are nobody, you are good for nothing, it limits your mentality to ever believe you are amazing or to even want to do amazing things. Why? Because of your home experience. So now your mentality has been limited. So the first way people get limiting mentality is home experiences. Your the abuse you faced, the trauma you faced, the hurts you went through, right? That's one way your mentality becomes limiting, right? Another way your mentality becomes limiting is your past failure. See, the truth is this, at one point or another in everyone's life, they may have failed, right? We all have that thing we may have failed in at one point. But this is what happens. Those past failure can become your reference to limit your mentality, to say, oh, because I failed before would mean that I will fail again. So you see how your past failures can become a limiting mentality. Oh, because this didn't work before, so it won't work again. So you see, your past failure can become a limiting mentality for you. And that's why I love what scripture says, that God says in Isaiah, I will do a new thing. I will do a new thing. Right? Because your past does not equate your future. Somebody write that down. Your past does not equate your future. So you must break out from that mentality of past failure, because what it's doing to you is that it's limiting your mentality now. You are not your past. Your past does not equate your future. So why will you allow your past? Why would you allow your past to become your limiting mentality? Why? And then the third thing that limits your mentality is people and self-talk. Right? People and self-talk. Right? Being in the midst of the wrong people, it affects your mentality. It affects how you start to see yourself. Right? And then the things you also say to yourself, your self-talk, your confessions, right? Your condemnation of self, it limits your mentality. So these are three ways that people get limiting mentality. Number one, their home experiences, the abuse, the trauma, the hurts. Number two, their past failure, right? And then number three, people and their negative self-talk. These are ways that people get limiting mentality. Now, there are three things about mentality that I need you to understand. Right? If you're still here, please let me know that you're still here. Right? Just put some fire emoji so I know you're still here. Right? Now, there are three things about mentality. Number one, it affects progress. The progress you make in life will always be seen to the degree of the mentality that you have. So mentality affects progress. Number two, it affects your success. God had to tell Joshua, be strong and very courageous. As I was with Moses, so also will I be with you. Only be thou strong and very courageous in Joshua chapter 1. Now, mentality affects your success. That's why he told Joshua, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth. Thou shalt meditate upon it day and night, to observe all that is written therein, to observe to do all that is written therein. It says, then you will make your way prosperous and have good success. Now, why is that? Simple. Because mentality will affect your success. The mentality you have will affect your success. If you see yourself as a failure, you can never be a success. Like I often tell us, there are no natural born failure. Failure is self-made. So you become a failure when you start to have the mentality of a failure. So you see, three things about mentality. Number one, it affects your progress. Number two, it affects your success. And number three, it affects who you are becoming. Mentality affects who you are becoming. It affects who you are becoming. We always say at Upgrade, we are the shortest distance between who you are now and who you can become. Why? Because we know that mentality affects your becoming. So we help you to switch it up so you can upgrade your mentality, because it affects the person you are becoming. Now, follow me closely. There are two traits of mentality. Two important traits of mentality you must always remember. Number one, your thinking. Number two, your acting. Scripture says that as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. As a man thinks in his heart, so he is. So your mentality, two traits about your mentality is your thinking and your acting. What you're thinking about, what you're doing. Those are the two traits of the mentality that you have. What you're thinking and what you're doing. Two traits of mentality. Thinking and doing. But then there is one goal of mentality. The one goal of mentality is audacity. Yes, audacity. The one goal of mentality is audacity. The reason why you are having the mentality is to have audacity, to become audacious. Earlier also we have a conversation on audacity. So please go watch that conversation on audacity, the conversation on ability. It will help you because it's more like a continuation of what we have talked about in these previous conversations. So we had a conversation on ability, we had a conversation on audacity. So go listen to those conversations before you listen to mentality because they all connect. They all connect. The one goal of mentality is audacity. Is audacity, where you become unafraid, where you look fear in the eye and still do what needs to get done. Unafraid. Audacity. Audacity, guys. Audacity. Now, no one develops mentality overnight. You can't sleep and wake up and have mentality. It doesn't work that way, right? It takes a process for mentality, and you must trust the process. In when we broke down the words mentality, we talked about T for trust. The first T was trust. When it comes to mentality, you must trust the process. It doesn't happen overnight. You can't sleep and wake up and then you have mentality. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a process, and you must trust the process. The same way your limiting mentality became a part of you over time, that's the same way your empowering mentality will become a part of you over time. But you must trust the process. You must trust the process because mentality doesn't happen overnight. No mentality happens overnight. No one. You must trust the process. You see, guys, trust the process. Even if you encounter failure, trust the process. It's part of the mentality. Even if you encounter failure, Thomas Edison, the one who created the light bulb, he said he failed 999 times, right? But when he was being interviewed, he said he learned 999 times how it will not work. Remember, I told you earlier, when it comes to mentality, it's either you win or you learn. There are no losses. There are no losses. Either you win or you learn. So he said, I have discovered 999 times the light bulb will not work. See, guys, there are three simple ways to build mentality. Do you want to build mentality? Do you want to build mentality? Type in the comment, I want to build mentality. Type it in the comment. Do you want to build mentality? Do you want to build mentality? Type it in the comment, I want to build mentality. Right? Now, there are three simple ways you build mentality. Three simple ways you build mentality. Number one, your environment. One of the ways you build mentality is your environment. Thank you so much for that comment. I appreciate it. Right? One of the ways you build mentality is your environment. You see, just the same way your home experiences created a limiting mentality for you, the same way the environment you put yourself can either create an empowering mentality or a limiting mentality for you. So if you're in an environment where people always talk about possibilities, always talk about opportunities, always talk about big things and big goals and big dreams, right? That now over time becomes your mentality because of the environment that you are in. That's why even the scripture says in Proverbs 13:20 that he that walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. Environment helps to build mentality. Environment helps to build mentality. That's why even the good book says, do not be equally yoked with unbelievers, because environment builds mentality. It helps to build mentality. If you stay with the wise, you become wise. You stay with the foolish, you become fool. Environment builds mentality, right? So one of the things that help to build mentality is your environment. So what environment do you put yourself? What environment do you put yourself into? Remember, we said your mentality is your responsibility. So what are the kind of environments you put yourself? Because it is building a mentality for you. Number two, the challenges. Challenges has a way it helps to build mentality. And you know, a lot of people run away from challenges. But what they don't know is that challenges build mentality. So if challenges are building your mentality, why run away from what is building your mentality? Why run away from what's building your mentality? Because challenges build mentality. When you go through tough time, when you go through difficulty, it's toughening you up. It's building your mentality to become resolute, to not giving up, back down. It's building your mentality. Challenges is building your mentality. And then the third thing that builds your mentality is victories. Yes, the victories you've had help to also build your mentality. You know, these victories that you've had in your life, they build a mentality to know that it's possible. They build a mentality to know that you can do it. They build a mentality to know that victory is sure, right? So the victories you've had build a mentality for victory and success even more. So these are three things I have discovered that helps to build mentality. Your environment, challenges, and victories. These three things, help you to build your mentality. Now, let me share some biblical examples of mentality that probably would blow your mind. There are three biblical examples of mentality I want to share with you. Number one is David, right? You know, when we talk about environment, challenges, and victories, David best epitomized these three things, right? So David was a shepherd boy, right? That was his environment, taking care of his father's sheep. And you know, when you take care of sheep, sometimes sheep are attacked by other wild animals, right? And then he encountered the challenge of the lion and the bear, right? So when he encountered the challenge of the lion and the bear, he killed them. Those were challenges. But those challenges now became David's victories. You getting it? Those challenges now became David's victories. But guess what? When David heard about Goliath, it was those victories he recalled, and he said, the same God that gave me the victory over the lion and the bear will give me the victory over this uncircumcised Philistine, and I will have his head off his shoulder today. The scripture says there was no sword in David's hand. Why was this even possible? I'll tell you why it was possible. Because David understood how to build mentality. So while the others were scared and in hiding because of Goliath, David said, nah, today is the end for you. I'll take your head off your shoulder today. I'll give your carcass to the birds of the air. Mentality, guys. Mentality. Another example of mentality was Elisha. You see, Elisha was an amazing man. When there was severe famine in the land and people were killing their children to eat and even eating animal dung, Elijah showed up and said, by this time tomorrow. I always love this analogy, right? Elisha shows up and said, by this time tomorrow, a bag of rice will be sold for 50 naira, a bag of beans will be sold for 20 naira. Like, Elijah is just, can't you see that there is famine? That people are killing their children to eat? Elisha had the mentality of supply and abundance. Elisha was one of the people who multiplied food in the Old Testament, right? He was the one who turned bitter water to sweet water, right? So Elijah performed a lot of miracles because he had that mentality, guys. He had that mentality. When Naaman came to see him, Elisha didn't even come out to see Naaman. He just told Naaman from the window and said, Go deep. Go dip yourself 7 times in the Jordan and you'll be cleansed. You see the mentality that Elisha had. He didn't come out to see Naaman. He didn't look at the condition to say, oh, this thing has gone critical. You have gone beyond repair. No, 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 no. He didn't even bother about that. His mentality was, anyone who comes to seek God will get healed. And he sent him to the Jordan. That's mentality, guys. That's mentality. Another time when his servant woke up and saw that the enemies have surrounded them, he cried out, Master, we are surrounded. And Elisha said, oh my God. Elisha said, they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And then Elisha said, oh God, open his eyes that he will see. And then the servant's eyes were open and he saw the host of chariots surrounding Elisha. See, there's a certain mentality you must have. In this life, there's a certain mentality you must have. Because I tell people that life is spiritual, whether you believe it or not is irrelevant. Life is spiritual, whether you believe it or not is irrelevant. So there's a certain mentality you must have about life. There's a certain mentality you must have about life. Elijah had it. And he was not moved by the circumstances he saw or faced. Another biblical example of mentality is Paul, right? Paul. When Paul and Silas were thrown in prison, they started to sing and dance. Like, if you've ever been arrested and put in prison for any reason, right? Whether justly or unjustly, the thought in your mind is not one of praise and worship. Literally, if you've ever been in any form of prison, whether it's justly or unjustly, the thought in your mind will not be one of praise and worship. But because of the mentality that Paul had, that was what he was doing in prison. And that's where we get that song from. Paul and Silas, they prayed, they sang, the Holy Ghost came down. You see, his mentality was different. That's his mentality. His mentality. How do you sing in prison? How do you sing in a difficult condition? How do you sing when you know there's no money in the account? It's the mentality that you can never be stranded. It's the mentality. When Paul was even told that when Agabus came and tied up Paul with his own ghetto and said, this is how the person who owns this ghetto is going to be bound and put in chains. And then they were telling Paul not to go. And Paul said, why break my heart? Why break my heart telling me not to go? He said, I'm not only willing to be bound for the gospel, I'm willing to die for the sake of the gospel. Look at his mentality. Willing to die. No one I could say that I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, yet not I, but Christ that lives in me. And the life I live now, By the flesh, I live it by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Mentality, guys. Mentality. Mentality. And then when Paul was going on the journey on ship, he told the captain before they even set sail that there's going to be a great shipwreck, but no life will be lost. Hey, yeah. Hey, mentality. This is going to be a great shipwreck, but no life will be lost. And the shipwreck did happen. And then that was when the viper fastened itself on Paul while Paul was trying to warm up by the fire. And then he didn't shout, he didn't scream. He just shook it off into the fire. He shook the viper into the fire. Mentality, guys. If you understand this, it changes a lot of things in your life. If you understand mentality, it changes a lot of things in your life. Changes a lot of things in your life. If you just understand mentality and begin to live your life according to the mentality that is right for you. You see, without mentality, your ability will not amount to much. Now, I really want to explain this. Without mentality, your ability will not amount to much. Remember the servant who was given 1 talent. He had ability, but because he did not have mentality, he went to dig his talent and hide it. So you see, when you have ability without mentality, your ability will not amount to much. He hid his talent because he lacked mentality. The other two who had mentality, they went out and worked with their talent and they got double of their talent. The one who had 5 got 5 more. The one who had 2 got 2 more. Why? Because they had the mentality to put their ability to use. I'll tell you this for a fun fact, guys. Fun fact. Fun fact. Fun fact. Without mentality, your ability won't amount to much. Quote it anywhere. Without mentality, your ability won't amount to much. You see people who play football, right? I'm an ardent Manchester United supporter, right? Shout out to the Manchester United all over the world, right? You see that sometimes our players, even though they have the ability, if they lack the mentality for winning, they can't win. And that was something that was very phenomenal with Sir Alex Ferguson, right? He knows how to instill the winning mentality in his players. So even if they were not big stars, he instilled the winning mentality and they were winning. It's about mentality. It's about mentality. So the servant who hid his talents was because he did not have mentality. Though he had ability, he was lacking in mentality. So it's not enough to have ability. You must have mentality to push your ability. And you must understand this. The man by the pool of Bethesda, he didn't have the ability, he didn't have the mentality that he could be healed. He was by the pool for 38 years. By the pool for 38 years. But he didn't have the mentality that he could be healed. So when Jesus came to him, Jesus asked, "Do you want to get well?" What was his response? "I have no one to help me." That was his mentality. No one to help. Without mentality, your ability wouldn't matter too much. He was by the pool for 38 years. By the pool for 38 years. For 38 years. Now see these guys. Gideon, when the angel appeared to Gideon, he said, "Oh Gideon, thou mighty man of valor, as one man you will defeat the Midianites." But Gideon could not trust his ability. He asked to gather 300 men to go and defeat 300,000 Midianites. So you could see it was not in the number of the men he had, but in his ability. But Gideon did not trust his ability because the angel told him, "Thou mighty man of valor, as one man, you will defeat the Midianites." So take this seriously and understand that if you don't have the mentality, your ability will not amount to much. Now, follow me closely. Your mentality is fueled through two things: your awareness and your consciousness. These are two things that fuel your mentality: your awareness and your consciousness. What are you aware of? What are you conscious of? These are two things that will fuel your mentality. David was aware. He said, "I come to you." He told Goliath, "I come to you in the name of the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defiled." He was aware and conscious of it. He said, "The same God who gave me the victory over the lion and the bear will give me victory over you." He was conscious of it. So two things that fuels your mentality is your awareness and your consciousness. And Daniel says, Daniel 11:32b, they that know their God, awareness and consciousness, they that know their God, they will be strong and they will do exploits. Awareness and consciousness. It fuels your mentality. What you know, who you are, it fuels your mentality. And you see, mentality doesn't mean there will not be setbacks. Doesn't mean that. But the comeback will be inevitable and it will be greater. Yes, mentality does not mean there will not be setbacks. There will be setbacks, but the comeback will be inevitable and it will be greater. That's mentality. Yes, there will be setback, but the comeback will be inevitable and the comeback will be greater. Are you still following these guys? Let me see some comments in the comment section. Let me see some fires in the comment section. Are you still following these guys? Are you still following? Because you need to upgrade your mentality. You see, what is stopping people is not their ability or their inability. What is stopping people is their mentality. Yeah. What is stopping people is not their ability or their inability. What is stopping people is their mentality. This is what is stopping people, their mentality. This is what is stopping people. It's not their ability or their inability, it is their mentality. That is what is stopping them, their mentality. And I believe that from today, your mentality will set you free. You will no longer be stopped anymore because you do not have the mentality that you should have. See these guys. Mentality is an asset. I want you to listen to this and please write this down. Mentality is an asset. Yes, mentality is an asset. Mentality is an asset. An ability without mentality can become a liability. Did you get that? Ability without mentality can become a liability. Now, this is not a rhyme, that is what it is. Ability without mentality can become a liability. It's not a rhyme, it is what it is. It is what it is, guys. It's not a rhyme. It is what it is. Mentality is an asset. Mentality is an asset. It is an asset. And listen to this. Your ability without mentality can become liability. Don't let your ability become liability. You need to get your mentality right. And see this, you must have the mentality of what you can do alone before support will come. Yes, you must have the mentality of what you can do alone before support will come. I know we love support. I know we want support. I know we crave support. I know we desire support. But know this, guys, you must have the mentality of what you can do alone before support will come. There's this video I always share in many of my training sessions. The video is titled Lead India. You can Google it, you see it on YouTube also. Lead India is a 2 minutes, 30 seconds video, right? Very short video. It's a video of a young boy who was going to school in a school bus, and then there was a log of wood on the road, right? And then all the cars could no longer move anymore because of the log of wood that fell on the road. And then everybody was talking over the situation. Nobody was doing anything about it. And then it began to rain, and everybody went for cover from the rain. And then this little boy came out from the school bus, dropped his school bag, and put his hand on the log of wood on the road. Why? He had the mentality that he would fix this problem. Now, while he was doing that, it was still raining, and he was just doing that with fun. Other little boys who were playing left their play and came and joined this little boy, putting their hands on the wood, having fun. They were playing also, just having fun. And then the much older ones saw those little kids, what they were doing, and then they joined in and they all together removed the log of wood from the road. And I always share these 3 lessons with everyone when I share this video. I said there are 3 lessons to learn from this. Number one, conviction. The little boy had conviction that he could solve the problem, and he came out with the mentality to solve it. That's why he went to start pushing the log of wood, right? And then as he did that, other little kids who saw him came to join him. So your conviction is what will attract cooperation to you. So the little boy did not go around calling other little boys to come and join him. He just kept doing what he was doing with conviction, with the mentality that he's solving a problem. And then the other younger kids joined him with the same conviction that he can be part of the solution. And then finally, when the adults came, that was called collaboration. So I said there are 3 C's you will learn from that video. The first is conviction. The second is cooperation. The third is collaboration. And why did I say all of this? All of this happened because of the little boy's mentality. Because he knew he is a problem solver. And I always tell people, you are either a solution or part of the problem to be solved. Did you get that? You are either a solution or part of the problem to be solved. There are no middle grounds. You are either a solution or part of the problem to be solved. But see this, guys. See this. This will help you. Mentality helps your identity, your authenticity, and your ability. I call it IAA. Mentality helps your identity, your authenticity, and your ability to shine through. Right? Mentality helps your identity, your authenticity, and your ability to shine through because of the mentality that you have. So it shines through everything you do because of the mentality that you have. And as we begin to wrap up this conversation today, mentality can make you undefeated. Remember, we said when it comes to mentality, you don't lose. You either win or you learn. You don't lose. So mentality can make you undefeated. Number two, mentality can make you unfuckwithable. And you know what unfuckwithable means? It means where you are in tune and at peace with yourself, that nothing anyone says or does bothers you, and no negativity or drama can touch you. That's what it means to be unfuckwithable. And mentality can make you unfuckwithable. You're always at peace and in tune with yourself, and nothing anyone says or does bothers you, and no negativity or drama can touch you. So mentality makes you unfuckwithable. And thirdly, mentality makes you unashamed. The mentality you have, shame is kicked away from you. You become unashamed. Unashamed. And let me wrap up with this. It is time for you to upgrade your mentality. Guys, this is the much that we can take on this conversation on mentality, and I believe that this will really worth your while. Remember, guys, three things will happen for you in this new week. Number one, increased voice of God. Number two, open heavens over your life. And number three, more angelic activities in all that you do. Remember, there's always more on the upgrade side of life. So we encourage you to leave good behind so that you can upgrade. And you must upgrade your mentality. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless you.